We live in a society that tells us it's taboo and not okay to talk about particular topics and subjects. And yes, I totally understand that certain topics are uncomfortable to talk about. But when we discuss these difficult subjects, it will help other people and allow us to more quickly find the solutions to some of our society's biggest problems. It will help us find solutions and help other people before they do something tragic. Now, let's take, for example, overcoming depression or suicide prevention. I'm going to give you 4 quick, powerful examples of people who are enormously authentic, successful, and very, very keen on helping other people. And they have shared their story with millions of people. And in me sharing their story with you today, I'm hoping for you to walk away from this video knowing that it's okay to share with others what you're experiencing, and then use your challenges as a springboard to make a difference in the world and solve some of society's biggest and most challenging problems. First example is Neale Donald Walsch, best-selling author of the Conversations with God series. I was listening to an interview he was doing with Larry King, and on that interview, Neale discussed how when he was at his rock bottom moment, when he had no money, and his relationships were failing, and his life was in the gutter, he was that close to taking away his life. That close. We're talking about one of the greatest authors and speakers in human history, but he got through it. He got through it, and he's now sharing his story with millions of people. Next example is Eckhart Tolle, author of the legendary book, The Power of Now. When I was 17 years old and at rock bottom, I read Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, and it completely changed my life. All we ever have is this present moment, and we can detach from everything that's going on in our minds. We can observe our minds, and that's what he did, because Eckhart Tolle wanted to take away his own life, but he observed his mind. He said to himself, I'm quoting him from an interview, I can't live with myself any longer. That's what Eckhart Tolle said. And he separated his consciousness from his thoughts. And he said, I can no longer live with what I'm experiencing. But he observed his mind. And even though he was about to commit suicide, the next day he woke up enlightened. Another very powerful story. 2 more quick examples. Tim Ferriss, author of The 4-Hour Workweek. He said that when he was in college, after his girlfriend broke up with him, his girlfriend was an athlete, after he was struggling with school, and after he had some other challenges in life, he said, I could no longer go on with my life. And he started to read books on how he could plan to kill himself. And the only reason why he's here today is because one of the books that he ordered on how he wanted to kill himself accidentally went to his mom. And his mom, last minute, found out that her son, Tim Ferriss, was about to kill himself, called Tim up on the phone and said, Tim, you can't do this. And it shook Tim out of his depression, and he's still with us today. Tim Ferriss is one of the greatest entrepreneurs in the history of the world. New York Times best-selling author, and he is changing the world. And he would no longer be here if it wasn't for his mom receiving the book that he ordered on how to kill himself. One final example I want to leave you with is Brendon Burchard. He's another New York Times best-selling author like everyone else that I've talked about here today. And Brendon, in an interview he was doing on YouTube, talked about how after his high school sweetheart cheated on him in college, and he thought he was going to be with this girl forever, he was at rock bottom. He didn't think he could go on with his life. He thought it was all over. And right when he was about to kill himself, he got in a car accident. Brendon Burchard. He got in a car accident. He flew from his car. He came that close to dying. And when he was bleeding to death, and he looked up to the sky, and he said, did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? And he got a second chance. He survived. And he's now one of the greatest entrepreneurs, speakers, and authors in the history of the world, like everyone else I've shared. And this is after he got through rock bottom, after he almost took his life. Society tells us it's taboo to talk about these things, but I gave you 4 examples of legendary authors and speakers who, in sharing their stories, have changed tens of millions of lives across the entire world. I realize this may not help every person. Not every single person on the planet will necessarily resonate with this message, but if we talk about these difficult topics and we keep the discussion going, we will be able to help other people with what they're dealing with. It's not taboo. You don't need to be afraid of talking about what you're dealing with. It's insanity. It is an absolute insanity that people are dying, they're killing themselves, and then no one is talking about it. No one is helping them. People are saying, shh, don't talk about them, even though they're dead, even though they're gone. That, to me, is insanity. 200 years from now, in a more evolved society, they're going to look back on our current society and say, that's insane. If they would just talk about the problem more often, then the challenge would be more quickly solved. Now, again, I realize this won't solve everything right away and this won't help everyone. But if we talk about these difficult topics, more people will be helped and more people will be saved. I also had a moment when I was 17 years old, at rock bottom, didn't know if I could go on. I was a big high school baseball star. I got recruited to play in college at a higher level. And I unexpectedly got cut senior year of high school from my baseball team. And I had no perspective, and it's something I can laugh at now. It's like big deal, right? But at the time, I had no perspective. I hadn't yet traveled the world, and I was really zoomed up on the setback I experienced. I didn't know if I could go on. And I blogged about this article for Tiny Buddha called How to Move Forward When You Feel Like Your Life Is Over, and it's been read by tens of millions of people around the world. I also am sharing that story, like Neil Donald Walsh, like Tim Ferriss, like Brendan Burchard, like Eckhart Tolle. Talk about what you're struggling with. You don't have to hold it in. There's a reason for you being here, and your life matters. I will see you at the mountaintop. Hey, I'm Jeff Davis. I'm here in New York City doing some filming for my YouTube channel, and I ran into this amazing person who was walking by, and she listened to what I was saying, and she was resonating with my message in terms of overcoming challenges, depression, rock bottom, and I shared some really powerful examples from some really successful people. She's been through some incredible challenges as well. What are some of your thoughts?
What really attracted me to your message was when you were throwing out some names of really incredible speakers and authors that I resonate with, that my story resonates with. But most importantly, when you said that a lot of people don't want to talk about depression, they don't want to think about these hard topics, and ultimately there are people passing away and committing suicide and dealing with really horrible things. And I just think that your message is just fantastic and is so needed. Your story is just so awesome, and I just think that what you're doing is necessary. It's one of the most important stories that have to be told, and that is the story of how to deal with depression and sadness and those hard topics that ultimately end people's lives, especially the lives of young people. So thank you for what you do.
I appreciate that a lot. That means a lot.
Yeah,
all I'm saying is talking about it will help solve those challenges.
Yep.
I realize it's going to take time, and every situation is unique, and it won't help everybody. But if we can talk about it more readily, people will be helped. And you were saying,
agree.
Yeah, and you were saying you liked how I mentioned Brendan Burchard.
Definitely.
Yeah.
The Millionaire Messenger is like, you know, I feel like I know Brendan, but I really don't.
Yeah.
But through his books, like, I just read them, and I just, you know, have learned so much as an entrepreneur, as a speaker, as a person who's really trying to do some of the things that he's been able to do. That book was one of the books that really changed the way I looked at how to market myself.
Yeah, he's incredible.
He's awesome.
He's awesome, and he's authentic.
He is.
I read his book, The Charge. I was traveling, and I read it, and he's just very authentic. He's very real, and his insights work.
He seems like someone that you could actually know.
Yeah.
And that's why I think some of the authors that you named were people that don't seem so far over there. They're actually people that you feel like you relate to in some way. Yeah. And that's what I think is most important, especially to the everyday person.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Well, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, thank you.
We support him.
Yeah.
We love him. I like him a lot. He's doing what he got to do.
Yeah, man.
And just keep spreading that message, dude. Because I swear to God, I wish I had some help. I wish I had some help sometimes spreading the same message you're spreading around.
Yeah.